All right, we are live. Good evening, everyone. If you do not know who I am Cherise Styles. I'm going to give everyone about 30 seconds to hop on in. I'm going to go ahead and share this on my page. And then those of you who are tuning in, I'm going to ask that you share this as well. We have the one and only Dr. Celeste here live. And I'm super excited for our conversation tonight. Let's see, here we go. Okay. So, Dr. Celeste, welcome to the Confidence Corner. How are you? How are you?
All is well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be sharing tonight.
I am so happy that you are here, that you took time out of your busy schedule. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Celeste Owens is an international speaker. She's an author. She is just doing the daggone thing. She's an entrepreneur, a mom, a wife. Yeah, she's great. She is faith-filled. When I tell you, this woman has faith. She is the faith queen. In my eyes, that is who you are. So if you would like, no, thank you. If you would like, you can go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can get into this topic.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of this. Any conversation that includes encouraging young people and women or anything like that is always something that I'm excited to be a part of. And I've had my own journey, and we'll talk about that momentarily. I have my own journey now with my daughter, who's now 13 years old. So it's just such a pleasure and privilege to be a part of the conversation on tonight. But as Cherie said, I'm Dr. Celeste Owens. I get the awesome privilege of hanging out with people all over the world, teaching the philosophy of surrender, which means simply for me, it means doing God's will his way. And I want to tell you tonight that surrender advances. So if you just surrender to the will of God, it will advance you. I'm telling you, it will. So I'm just excited again, just to be a part of the conversation. And you probably want to know how I know Cherise. Yes.
Yes.
Probably want to know. Somebody probably asked. Cherise is like my baby sister. And we met at her church, Restoration Station, years ago. And it was like our spirits agreed, and we were attracted to each other in the spiritual kind of way and connected from that moment. And the Lord had given me, while I was there to speak at her church, shout out to the Morgans, her pastors. Yes, shout out. And the Lord, and I just kept looking at her, and I had just finished reading a passage on Mary and how Mary and Elizabeth had come together and how this whole Holy Ghost thing happened between them. And it just kept saying, she's married. She's married. So she got up. I called her up, probably embarrassed her thoroughly. And just this whole prophecy on her being married and how God's going to use her in her purity and all of that. So that's how we met. And we've been connected ever since.
Been connected ever since. How many years ago was that? That's a while ago.
That was a while ago. Wouldn't you say at least 6-7 years ago, I think. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then after that, everyone was like, hey, Mary. Hey, Mary. Good stuff. It was great. And so, like I said, I'm just really thrilled for you to be here, because I know, you could be talking to anyone like internationally at this time. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you talking with me and just helping women just raise confident daughters. So if those of you who don't know, I am Cherise Styles, the CEO and founder of Wear Your Confidence. And this is the Confidence Corner. And this theme for this series is Confident Moms Raising Confident Daughters. And so the topic that we're going to be talking about is faith, focus, and fasting with Dr. Celeste, because she has something called the Surrender Fast. And we'll get into that. But first, let's talk about our confidence journey. We all have a journey. We know that, we don't just arrive, oh, I'm confident and I'll be confident for the rest of my life. Do you mind just telling us about your journey with confidence?
Yeah, I really wish I had a Cherise when I was younger who pulled me together in this group and really encouraged me in my spirit as a teenager, because I really wasn't confident as a teenager. And one of my greatest assets is also can be my greatest weakness. And it really is about being sensitive a lot of times, and so sensitive in fact that I cared a whole lot about what people thought about me, a lot of that in my teenage years. So it took me a while, and I'm still a work in progress, to get to the place where I feel like I'm confident. And the only way I got to the place of being confident, it was to know who I am in God. Like I had to really rehearse how much he was into me. Like I would go find scriptures about, man, he know every hair on my head. What? Every morning he gives me new mercies. Me, no matter what I did, I get these new mercies. So I had to rehearse all of that in order to really get to a place where I'm like, I'm the bomb.com, right? I'm the bomb Sinickety. And I'm still a work in progress to get to the place where I feel like I'm confident. And that of being confident, it was to, is that me, Sharice?
I think that was me.
Oh, okay, okay. No worries, no worries. I just got to hear it back again.
So yes, you said it took you a while.
Mm-hmm. It took me a while, like decades while. Like some people might get over it in a couple of years. It took me decades of God just peeling back the layers. And we'll talk about this too, but fasting was certainly a part of me getting to a place where I could get back to the authentic me that I was created to be right from the beginning. So, then you come into this world and life happens. And sometimes it strips away the things that are true about you, or what you believe to be true about you gets replaced with things that are false. So it took me decades as an adult too to really get to a place of wholeness.
Right. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I know a lot of times with parents, it's hard for them to teach from a place where they're not familiar with. And so I know the phrase comes up, fake it till you make it type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about, God pulling back those layers, what did that look like for you? Was it just like a lot of crying, journaling?
Yeah, all of the above, all of
Okay.
that. And you know what's interesting too about raising daughters, if you haven't dealt with your own things, and I was just on a panel recently where a woman was talking about how she was molested by her mother's boyfriend. And then her daughter says, your husband is molesting me. And she's like, what? You're a liar. But then she realizes, oh my goodness, my mother did it to me. It took a while. It took her some months to realize my mother did that to me, and now I'm doing it to my daughter. So it's hard to be who you're not, or who you haven't grown to be. So really it's imperative. It behooves us as mothers to really work on our stuff, because we really end up duplicating ourselves in our children if we're not careful. Because even though we might say, do as I say, people don't do as you say. People do as you do.
Exactly.
People mimic what you do. Even unconsciously, people do what you do. For example, this ain't got nothing to do with mother daughters, but for a long time, I could not sleep in the dark. Could not sleep in the dark. I was just so afraid. It's a long story. Do you know my kids to this day, they're 15 or 13, still can't sleep in the dark? I'm like, I done got over it, y'all. I can sleep in the dark now. They still got the light on. I got to work them out of that before they become adults. But it's like they watch what you do, not just what you're saying. So it's imperative as moms that we really get to the place where we work it out. Journaling, yes, absolutely. Crying it out, yes. Really being reflective. I do a lot of meditation in the morning, not long periods of time. I'm just saying I make sure I do it consistently. Even if you're doing 5 minutes of breathing and just sitting still, it's so important that you do that so that you can become and continue to become your best authentic self and be able to show up in the world in an amazing way.
I agree. I agree so much. Like you were saying, some things are caught rather than taught. And I know I catch a lot of
Yes.
things from my mom. And I'm like, I sound like my
I
mother.
caught it.
Like even when I'm like praying and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my mom. OMG. And it's not like she said, okay, this is how you're supposed to talk, or this is I'm just
Mhm.
watching her, just being around
Mhm.
her, and I'm like, yep,
You
this,
caught it.
this is my mom. And it can be good, and then it
Right.
can be bad as well. I see a lot of times moms with self-image issues.
Yeah.
They're always scrutinizing their bodies and things like that. And then you hear their daughter, who's like 7 and 10, saying that they have body issues, that they're fat. And I'm like, wait, where did this come from? And then you hear
Yeah.
their mom talks, and I'm like, oh,
Right. And you know what? My daughter is amazingly way more confident than me. And I think I could just credit her father because she at her age is way more confident. And I remember, I'm just thinking about what you're saying, how we can shame our daughters sometimes. And she has eczema periodically right in like the crease, like in her legs or her arms. And I remember one day she was going to school and I was like, don't you want to wear long sleeves? She's like, no, it's hot outside. I was like, but don't you want to wear long sleeves? Why? And then I had to think like, why? I was like, well, the eczema is showing. She's like, I don't care. What does it matter? People could think what they want to think. I don't care. I don't care. When she did that, I was like, okay, hello, confident little girl. I'm like, wow. So I stopped getting to the whole I gotta be perfect because that was one of the things I struggled with, the whole showing up perfect. So
yeah, that's
mhm.
amazing. How old was she during
That
that?
was years ago. That was probably like 3 years ago. Maybe she was like 10 years old.
Wow.
Hmm.
And that's so crazy that you say that. I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of times parents will project their insecurities on their children. And
Yep.
that's so, I guess as parents, they have to be very mindful. One of the things that I was just in a session, or at a group girl chat session with one of my friends, and I was talking about like false flaws. It's a term that I had coined. And what it is we take on the the negativity that others put on us, and we think that there's something wrong with us because of something that someone pointed out in us.
Boss. Wow.
Flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Wow.
that is so key. We just have to be mindful of the things that we say.
Mm-hmm.
And so um let's talk a little bit about the whole fasting. um I just think that it's amazing that you have your daughter fast as well.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people who don't know Dr. Celeste, her fast is not like the regular fast. Could you tell us a little bit about the surrender fast?
Absolutely. So I wrote the Surrender Fast about a decade, not about a decade ago. A decade ago, I wrote this book on accident. Now that part is true. It was really, I didn't even know I was writing a book. I just happened to be blogging to people for 40 days. And then lo and behold, 10 years later, there's this book that's like going around the world and people are really excited about it. But the fast, like you said, it can be the traditional style of fasting with the absolute fast, not eating at all for a certain amount of time or eliminating certain foods. But this surrender fast is a little bit different because you actually surrender to God what He instructs you to surrender. So it talks about in Isaiah, is this the fast I called you to? So you have to question yourself and figure out during the pre-fast portion of the book, what am I to give up to God? What really holds part of my heart and really something that I'm really invested in? It's like that kind of thing. So it'd be like social media, your phone, makeup, I mean, any of those kind of things it could be that God would have you to surrender. And then you do it for 40 days, 40 being God's number of transition, and you really watch Him show up in an amazing way. If you're freely a part of the process with Him, it will change your life.
Yes, and I love that. When I first heard them, like, what? First of all, no one wants to fast for 40 days. Like, what are you talking about?
Right. Most
And
people
then
do.
when I heard about it, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can do that. And so I
Mhm,
think the first time I did it, it was television, because I just love watching movies. Like, that was my
mhm.
thing. I just watch TV, Lifetime, all day, every day. And I'm like, okay, this was cool. And then I did it again, and then I
Yeah,
did it
of
again. And
course.
I got some young girls to do it with me as well, some of the girls from the fashion show. And they were they they were like, 40 days. What? You're like, Miss Reeves, I don't think I can. I'm like,
I don't think I could do
you,
that. You
you
could do
can.
it.
You can't. And so I know the conversation that I had with them. How was that conversation with your daughter when you tried to bring that up to her for the first
Yeah,
time?
so you know what, I've had them fasting. So my son actually, so I wrote the book in 2010. Then my son actually wrote a children's version of it some years later. So that was their first experience with doing the fast. So the first time she did it, she was so much younger than she is now, that she was all like, "Yay! I want to do my brother's book, and I want to write and do pictures." And so she was all in, like all in. And she ended up, I forget what she fasted from that first year, but oh, I believe it was because somebody was bullying, was a bully at school, not necessarily bullying her, but it was just a bully. And that person ended up changing their behavior around her, just fasting and experiencing God. It grew her enough to be able to speak up to that person, and it kind of simmered that person down in the classroom. Um, so she was super duper gun ho about it. Now, when I say, y'all, everybody's about to start fasting in September, because we do the fast with everybody every September. Oh, what? They just like huffing and puffing. I'm like, are you serious? The organizer of the fast does not have commitment from her family. Are you?
Yeah, that is
So,
sweet.
but they will do it. They will do it. And then once she gets into it, she's into it. And you led the fast for the teams last year, which was phenomenal. And she really appreciated and loved that experience. She
Yeah,
did. Hmm.
awesome. That was a lot of fun. That was
It
a
was.
lot of fun. So yeah, there's pushback
One
nonetheless.
second. I'm gonna grab my phone is dying. So 1 second. Sorry about that. I knew that was coming. Okay, so what were you saying?
I said, of course, there's going to be, pushback with teens, of course,
Of
and
course.
especially if it's something that you're telling them you want them to break away from, that takes up their attention or their time with God. A lot of them are gonna be like, what am I supposed to do without social media for 40 days?
Right. Exactly. And you want me to do what for 40 days? And you know what? And we've had even, she's bought into it. There have been other teams at our church. They did it one time as a commitment. But really, if you could put it in the context of um, how much God wants to have a conversation with you, how much He wants to reveal, because you're special. So that's why I try to go on with her. You're special. You've been called. They've known that since the beginning. My kids have always known that people have prophesied about them, and there's so much specialness. That's not even a word,
It's
but
okay.
there's in them. So I'll say, but you have to be in God's face. You have to be able to discern His voice. You have to be able to hear Him. So she's able to buy in it that way. But you're right. You get pushback from teenagers. So it's just part of what's going to happen.
Right. And then you
Mhm.
said that you did see the benefits, like with that one situation with the bully, not
Mhm.
necessarily with her. What are some other benefits that you would say to parents for them, just fasting together?
Yeah, absolutely. So it draws you closer together as a family, because then you all of a sudden you are united in this one cause to surrender to God. Like you have this one focus for 40 days. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. And I always encourage people to get their families together each day and do the devotional and really have a little bit of discussion. It doesn't have to go long, because the devotionals are actually not that long. It takes like 15 minutes to read each one, and then have a little bit of discussion. And you might just pick one of the questions. There's usually like 4 or 5 questions with each chapter. Just have one of the questions, but your children will grow. And even if they act like they have an attitude and give you the stank face the whole 40 days, trust me, let God do the work and they will grow from it. Because my son sometimes says stuff that shocks me. Like I'm or does things that shock me. My daughter too. But I just remember recently I told my son, I said, "Oh, the rebels are having Friday night, whatever. You need to make sure you're going to the Friday night gathering they have." I'm already doing it, Ma. I'm already on the Friday. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, well, look at Jesus. Look at Jesus. So it's like just keep instilling it in you. Like we're talking about our daughters, keep instilling it. I don't care how much their face looks like you're getting on my nerves. I don't want to hear it. They are listening. They are listening.
Right. That's a key point to hone in on, they are listening. Like a lot of times when I'm talking to these girls, I get like discouraged and I'm just like, you know what, I'm done because I'm wasting my breath and you don't want to, you look like you don't want to be bothered.
Mhm.
But then I had to remember, my pastors always say, like, don't be afraid of their faces. Like they are listening, and then they'll repeat back to you things that you said. And I'm like, oh, you were there.
Mhm.
So I would say, to parents, just keep on going because it works.
Yes.
And even if you haven't, I think it's a good idea. One way for you to connect with your daughter is to fast. And especially during quarantine, you have nothing else. Like what else? What else?
Let's just do things. And you know, and sometimes your daughter's not even ready to fast. I have had parents who say, I am fasting for my daughter. I am fasting for my son. And it's been the most amazing result that they've gotten just by extending themselves out there to do it for them because they weren't ready to be a part of the experience. So you could do it either which way.
I like that. And
Hmm.
so I'm just going to assume that not everyone knows what fasting is or what to do while you're fasting. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So fasting is just a really simple way to deny the flesh so the spirit grows and you get more in tune with God so you can discern his voice and you can discern his care and his comfort and his love for you. That's all it is. You're just denying the flesh because the flesh will tell you, no, you don't want to fast. No, you don't want to give up TV
Oh, that's
or
good.
Netflix or whatever it is for 40 days. But once you tell the flesh, you're not in charge, and I really want to know my father a lot more, that's what the spirit just grows in you and really starts to. And you know what's interesting? It doesn't even wait to 40 days. It's like when, and Sharice knows this, when you say yes, that process starts right away. And you just start to see God reveal himself in so many different ways and not in ways that you expect. You know,
Right there.
yeah, it's not the way you expect. So it's just a tremendous process. And it's not always easy. So when you get halfway through, you might be like, there's this movie I really want to see though. But it's
Put
worth
it
it to
down and
just
go back to it.
go back. Exactly. And you know, I had somebody who they were at an event, and I'm not even judging them because actually this probably makes sense for them. They gave up cookies and they were at this event and the cookies looked so good. So she took them home to freeze them so she could have them on day 41. I was like, it's okay. I'm not judging you. Have your cookies on day 41. But she still was being obedient to the process. So you can, again, this process is not one that's always super simple because 40 days is a long, can be long, but it is so worth it. So I'm talking to somebody, if your daughter is not connected with you, that always breaks my heart when I hear mom saying, I want to be connected to my daughter or even your son. Give God 40 days and let him break the stronghold that keeps you guys disconnected so that you can reunite with God really coming through with that miracle for you. So the surrender fast will do that for you.
I love it. I love that. Because a lot of times, I mean, hearing this concept may be new to a lot of parents.
Mhm.
So even if you don't start off together, starting by yourself, what I'm hearing you say
Yeah.
help, next time that you do it, soften your daughter's heart so that you guys can do it together.
And it might not even be the second time, the third time, the fourth, but eventually she got, what you doing? Okay, I'm gonna do it with you. Because let me give you an example. This don't have nothing to do with mother daughters. My husband has watched me meditate for years. Years. Walk right by, go to his man cave. If I'm in the, because usually I'm downstairs. He'll walk. Do y'all know? Just about 3 weeks ago, I go to sit down to meditate. He was like, "I'm gonna do it today with you." I was like, "What? What?" I try not to get too excited because then he gonna be like,
Right.
"Okay, that's enough."
You're
Right. So we've been meditating nonstop, you guys, for 3 weeks straight. Just sitting there together, meditating, listening to our spoken guided meditation. And it's phenomenal. So keep doing it, you guys. Keep demonstrating what you want those in your family to show up to do too.
I love that. Keep demonstrating what it is that you want. Because like we said earlier, some things they are caught rather than taught. Didn't
Yes, I
have to
love
pressure
that.
him into anything. He just watched and came on board.
Hmm.
Beautiful. So as we talk about husband, I'm glad you mentioned him. How do you focus? How do you focus being a wife, being an entrepreneur, being a mother? You're leading a global surrender fast. You're praying every night. How do you stay focused?
Yeah, um, whatever you're assigned to do, you're graced to do. So people often say to me, "How are you doing all of that stuff you're doing? Oh my goodness, how you?" And when they start to regurgitate back to me what I'm doing, I'm like, "Whoa, I sound busy." Because on paper, I really do sound like I'm doing a lot. I don't feel like I'm doing a lot because that's because God has undergirded me and graced me to do it. And if I do feel like I'm doing a lot, that means, so let's go somewhere and sit down and go take a break, because obviously you're trying to operate in your own strength. Now, having said that, I do have times when I feel like I'm imbalanced in some respects because I'm so driven. I'm so driven. So I ask God, if I'm way driven with this thing I'm doing, I think I'm doing this right. But could you please pick up the slack with your son and your daughter, my children, your children, because I'm probably missing something somewhere. Because I really am driven, and not to the point where I feel like um I'm being disobedient to God, but I feel like I have such a heart to do the work that God has called me to do, that I wonder sometimes, are they getting enough? And I ask them too, like, yeah, like I just told my husband before I got on here, just like my sixth Zoom, but when I get done with this one, it's me and you. We just having our free time. He's like, oh yeah, I can't wait.
Oh,
So sometimes I just feel like that, but and I'm saying that to the mom who feels like, oh my goodness, can I do ministry? Can I do motherhood? Can I do? You can do everything God's called you to do. Everything He's assigned to your hands, you really can do. And God just cushions in all of the areas in which you think there might be slack or there might be whatever that you missed. God's going to do it. God does it. He fills that in. Like I said, it was like months later before I realized AJ wasn't on the Zoom with the Rebels group at our church. He's like, Mom, already on. I'm like, oh, look at Jesus. Look at you. Because I forgot to put the boy on the Rebels. so, so yeah, so whatever God has called you to, wherever He's assigned you to, He makes it all good. In every area of your life, He just is able to make it all good. Now, if you operate in your own strength, your family might fall apart, because sometimes, because you know what it is, Sharice, too, your heart is your heart. What motivates you to do the things that you're doing? And that's another thing as mothers we have to really check. Am I doing all of this just to impress some people or to prove a point to the people who said I never would be, whatever, to the expense of my family? No, I'm doing the things God has called me to do. He's gracing me to do it. But you best believe, for me, it's all is, and you have to have the order right. It's God first. And my first lady says, it's God, then you, then your family, then your community and church. And I was like, and then you. But it's that whole concept, if you don't put your mask on,
exactly.
nobody else is any good. So then that's why I always take my time in the morning to meditate, to breathe, to read my word, to listen to God. And then my family comes first, and then next, and then all this, the rest of the stuff I'm doing, it comes as well. And that's why God graces me to write a book. I've written 2 books in 40 days, you guys. 2 books. Because
Wow.
God knows this girl needs to be doing stuff for her family. So let me hurry up and download this to her so she can get to moving and doing the other things she needs to do. So God will do it for you.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard you say that you meditate in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. So
Mm-hmm.
what time were you waking up to do all of this to start your day? Because you're waking up before everyone else.
Of course, I'm waking up before everyone else. So initially, I had to wake up really early before everyone else because I had to get my daughter off to school. This year, I was homeschooling my son. That's another thing I did that people are like, what though? How are you fitting in homeschooling your son in ninth grade? It was just a God idea, and I said yes to it. But now I can wake up now like 6:30, 6:30 because everybody's homeschooled. So everybody's home. So I can get up a little bit later. And then I want you guys to understand this whole meditative thing is not me 2 hours, in my space. It's me picking a meditation that's probably anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, reading my word, getting a scripture and meditating on that scripture for a little bit. So we're talking probably like 30, 45 minutes that I'm able to do that. And then I feel like I'm a whole me showing up for the day. Not a half of me, not a cranky me, just a whole me showing up. And one thing I really do too, I love when I meditate is essential oil. So if you guys are into that, like I set the atmosphere, I put music on. I love Dappy Keys. Anybody listen to Dappy Keys on YouTube? He's amazing. He's just all instrumental.
Look.
Dappy Keys. He's so good. Dappy, DAP. PPY, keys. He
Okay.
plays the keyboard. So I put him on. And then after that, my husband and I, we do like these other little exercises. And I put my Steve Harvey motivational minutes on. So that's like the whole first hour of my day is just that. That's the only way I could show up and be a mom that's whole, a business owner that's whole, a child that's whole. That's the only way I could show up is by giving God my first fruits in the morning.
That is so good. So good because we have to be intentional. We have to be
Mhm.
intentional about our time, about what we do, not just with family, not just getting caught up in the child's life or just
Right.
your life, but your faith
Yeah, that's good.
as
Hmm.
well. And so I labeled you in my head as, the faith, the queen of faith. um, I believe there was one not YouTube, Instagram video where I was like, I need to have you in my head playing this over and over. So like, where did your faith come from? Like where, like how?
My parents. My parents, oh my goodness. Because people now are like, how'd you get this much faith? I was like, did you meet my parents? Because that's where it's. But now my mother's like, you are us on steroids. Like she's like, you us beyond. And then yeah. So my dad passed away. People don't know this. My dad passed away about a month ago. And he was like a serious pillar of faith. And I feel like now I've just picked up his mantle and like, so Sharice, if you like what you heard before, I'm like, me and Jesus about to do the thing. Like, I feel like I just picked up his mantle, like, let's go, God, let's go. But I really got it from them. And it was again, what you're saying, not what you not just watching, but like you
The
catch,
thought.
you
Mm-hmm.
caught,
The
yeah.
thought rather
Like
than
I caught things because they lived their faith out. They lived it out. They lived out. My mom saying, my mom having a degree and hearing from the Lord to have these 8 children and be home with these 8 children. They lived their faith out. And for me to be able to watch that was a privilege. And then now I realize there's nothing impossible with God. There's nothing. Like if people show up, even in the season that we're in now, where we are supposedly in a famine, and I'm like, oh, not me. I'm not in a famine.
right. I'm like, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Because I'm not in a famine. So,
Right.
because I just believe that God's children don't have to be in a famine. We could believe Him. He owns every single thing. Even in famine season, God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He owns everything. So it's just that kind of faith and believing in God. God responds to faith. That's
Right.
what He responds to.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
how it works. It's dead.
It's dead.
Works dead.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so as we begin to wrap up, what I'm hearing is we need the faith to fast, help us
Mm.
to focus. And
Okay.
all of that, I'm trying to put it all together. You
I
see?
see it with your F words.
And and then all that together will help not only build you up in your walk, but also help your daughter.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, um, I hear, because I mentor young girls, moms would say, I just don't know what to do with her. And
Mm.
sometimes I'm just like, well, there really isn't much that you can do. You need to go spend time with God, really,
Yes. Yes.
and let God talk to you about her. Because some of the things like our girls deal with so much. Like in my day, I thought I dealt with a lot, but with social media, I'm like,
No.
what is this? What are you
Exactly.
talking about? What?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
like parents don't understand it, like, oh, you're just a kid, just go to school, blah blah blah. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, okay, let's rewind just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different time.
Yeah.
And so there's work that has to be done on both sides. So
Yeah.
mhm.
And I love what you're saying because you're saying it's oftentimes that we go to other people and say, I don't understand so and so. And it's fine to have counsel with people and to talk with people. But you know who does understand your daughter? God. And one of my favorite scriptures in Jeremiah 33:3, and it talks about how God will show you in the Amplified Bible, it says, God will show you the fenced in things, the things that you cannot see. And
Mhm.
that's what I do oftentimes when I'm not understanding my daughter. I'll, God, help me to see it correctly. Help me to go to her when I go to talk to her. Give me the words to say because I can't see it the way you can see it. And God will just reveal that thing like, this is why she's feeling this way. I'm like, oh, got it. And then you can go in with this open heart that's not judgmental, that's not defensive, that's not any of those things, and really be able to connect with your daughter in a way that will shock her. Like, how did my mother understand that that was going on with me? It is nobody but God.
Right. That's
Mhm,
awesome. I love how you said that, like, help me how to talk to her. 'Cause a
mhm,
lot of times, we get talked at, like, don't just talk at me. I need you to talk
mhm,
to me. Let's be conversational. And it's like,
mhm.
da, 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 and then kids are just like shutting all the way down.
It's
You
all the way
shut
down.
all the way down. You can't get
Yeah.
anything in.
And
So
you got to start with the positive. I mean, I know this is a whole different topic. We're about to close, but just let me throw that in with the communication piece. Start with what is good. The word tells us focus on what is good, what is lovely, what is kind, what is beautiful. Start with what is good. And I have to say it to myself because I'm melancholy by personality and I'm always seeing the fault, like how you could grow. Like we could grow if we just fix
me
this right
too.
here. But then it's like going with the thoughtful part, like, man, Leah, you love people and you have such a kind heart toward people. But you can't take up for your friend in school when the teacher has told them one thing. Because she is definitely an advocate for people. Like she will fight, ride or die. That's that girl right there. Yeah. So start with the positive.
I like that.
Mhm.
My pastors would tell me the sandwich method. So we'll start with something good, get to the meat of the matter, and then end with something good.
I love it. The sandwich. Exactly. That's so good.
Yes. So when it happens,
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, what's about to happen? You're
What's
being
with
extra nice. Like, okay, this bun is good, but what's
What's
the
coming?
issue? What's the issue? It's
Mhm.
so great. Thank you so much. I just want to let you let the people know how they can get in contact with you, get your
Mhm.
book, stay connected, join the fast because it will
Absolutely.
change your life. I promise you, guarantee you, it will change your entire life.
Yeah, thank you so much again for the opportunity to be here with sharing about confidence. I love the work that you're doing with
Thank
young people. Absolutely. So, you guys, you want to catch me? I'm at drcelesteowens.com, and all of the information is there about the Surrender Fast, how to get the book. Also, there's information there about joining us for our Global Surrender Fast, which is coming up this September to October. So excited about this fast because we didn't know what the world would look like at this time. And God gave us as our theme perfect vision. We got to be able to see things the way God is seeing them in this season. So we're going to do a lot of that this coming up this September, hoping to get a teen version of the Surrender Fast out by then. Hoping. I got to more than hope. I got to set a date. So, you know, when you got a goal, you got to set a date and make it happen. So I got to make that happen. But we want your teens, your children, your mother, your father, what do they say, Lottie Dottie and everybody, all of them. Everybody fasted in September.
Everybody.
Everybody. So good. So thank you again.
Thank you. And then you're also on Instagram.
Oh, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of those at Dr. Celeste Owens.
Celeste Owens.
Hmm.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This
You
was
welcome to.
great. Any
Yes.
last word of advice that you want to leave moms, people watching in regards to what we talked about this evening?
Yeah, you know, one of the things I've been saying over and over again, um, if you're going to wear your confidence, you got to do what scares you. You got to do what is you are so afraid to do because once you step out like that in faith and do what scares you, you get some confidence. You're going to wear your confidence. Wow, God, you took me through that. It's going to build your confidence. So that's my last thought. Just do what scares
I love it.
you.
Do
Hmm.
what scares you because that will help build your confidence.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
I
Boom.
love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
for everyone
welcome.
tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or the replay. Um, Thank you for joining the Confidence Corner. We'll be here again next week with Dr. Cosette. And it's
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
phenomenal with her and her daughter. So thank you so much, Dr. Celeste. Enjoy your evening. And
You
everyone,
too.
don't forget
Love
your
you.
love you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.